I thought this book was so creepy. Didn't enjoy these books, and then I legit read like 200 pages that night and then just flew through this 600-page book like it was nobody's business. That's my man. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley and I like to talk about books, and today I'm going to be talking about all the books I read in the month of April. This was definitely a slower reading month for me. I feel like I keep saying that month after month. It just keeps getting slower and slower. But I also had a lot of reading plans for this month. I actually posted a TBR video for this month and I stuck to that TBR to get through some video ideas and some reading challenges that I had for myself. And I feel like that slowed me down quite a bit because I am a mood reader and I just felt myself not wanting to read these books because I had decided I was going to read them, and I was just thinking about all the other books that I wanted to be reading because I was more in the mood to read them, and I occasionally strayed from the path, but for the most part I stayed on my TBR. I didn't get fully through everything I wanted to read this month, but I got through most of it, and I still have one more video in the works, so that will be coming soon. In terms of enjoyment level this month, it was like 50-50. I either like loved the books I was reading or I was just like meh with them. So we have a mixed bag, but with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump right on into it. The first book that I read this month was Dracula by Bram Stoker. I have an entire reading vlog dedicated to reading this book for the first time and my experience reading Dracula. I was so excited to read this because I am a big horror fan, but I have not read the classics, and so Dracula was a good place that I wanted to start. I have read The Haunting of Hill House, which I guess you could call a classic as well, but this was my first like really old horror classic, and I had heard great things about it, so I was anticipating to like it, maybe even love it, and I would say it was pretty successful. I think I ended up giving this like a 4-star rating. If you don't know what Dracula is about, like I didn't, I just knew it had something to do with a vampire. It all kicks off when this character named Jonathan Harker has to go live with Dracula and work for Dracula in his castle for about a month, and during the course of his trip he starts to learn Dracula is a vampire, starts to get scared for his life, and tries to flee the estate to go back home to the woman that he wanted to marry. And when he does, Dracula ends up following him and kind of tormenting the entire town of people that he is associated with. I thought this book was so creepy. There were some truly great horror moments in this book that will just stay with me and that I just think about occasionally. I can really see how this book became such a classic and how it blew up this whole idea of the vampire, and I just thought it was so much fun because most of what I read pertaining to vampires will involve vampires as like a romantic interest in the story, and so it was really nice to just dive into the horror aspect of vampires and see their creepy side, and it was just a really good time. If you want to know more about the book and my thoughts on it, you can check out my full reading vlog. It is mostly spoiler free. I think if I mention any spoilers, I let you know beforehand so you can skip those sections. But yeah, I'm glad I finally got around to this one, and I think Frankenstein might be up next. The next reading plans that I had for the month was to read books about witches, and so I ended up reading these 3 books, kind of. If you haven't seen the reading vlog, make sure you go check that out to see full thoughts and how I enjoyed these books or didn't enjoy these books. I mostly discovered in this video that I don't really like these books about witches, but I think my selection was just off a little bit because I was looking for like creepy books about witches, and these didn't really fit the mark except for The Year of the Witching. So to start with The Year of the Witching, I ended up giving this a 2-star rating, and it was my favorite book in that video. So what does that say? So yeah, that video was kind of a mess. This is a story about a girl named Emmanuel who lives in this like puritanical society in the town called New Bethel. They're led by a guy named the Prophet. He has a lot of religious connotation behind him, and she is the daughter of a woman who ran away into the woods, the dark woods, which you're not supposed to do, and like associated with witches. And so Emmanuel is sort of a little bit of an outcast in the society because of that, and she ends up going into the woods. You're not supposed to. An animal of hers runs into it, so she goes in there, associates with some witches, and then these plagues start taking over her land, and she thinks she's responsible and tries to stop them while also learning about her family history. I had only ever heard 5-star reviews of this book, so my expectations were like out the roof. I thought this was just going to be an amazing book, and it just didn't really click with me. There were a lot of reasons that I didn't love it, and I didn't love Emmanuel as a character, and I didn't feel the plot moving forward in a natural way, and I talk a lot about that in my vlog, so you can definitely check that out to hear more about it. But overall, this one just didn't really work for me. Next, I tried to read The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harris. tarot in that vlog, and I ended up DNFing this book at around 50%. So this is a story about these three sisters who have been separated throughout time. The two oldest sisters ended up kind of leaving home before they aged out of leaving home. They had a really abusive dad, their mom had died, and they each had separate reasons for leaving the home and kind of drifting off and doing their own thing. And then one day the oldest sister like reads a spell out of a book, not really knowing what she's doing, and it ends up pulling all these three sisters back together. And then they also become involved in like the suffragist movement, which also kind of turns into the witching movement, because witching is a thing that is possible in this world, but it is not allowed, and the women want to fight to let witching be allowed again. In concept, I liked this book. I liked the feminist energy of this book, but that's kind of all I was really getting out of it. I really liked the beginning of it. I thought it was so atmospheric. I love the way it was written. It had a very like fairy tale vibe to it. It was very whimsical at first, and it felt very much like the fall. And so I really thought I was going to fall in love with this book, but it ultimately just got kind of boring for me. Like I said, I talked more about that in my vlog as well. I do think I will finish this book eventually. I just don't see that happening for a while because I do find myself still kind of curious about these characters. I just couldn't push through this book, and it was delaying the rest of my reading plans for the month, so I ended up DNFing this one. And then the third book I had planned for that video was Initiated by Amanda Yates Garcia, which I also ended up DNFing. This one only at 40 pages in, but it is a shorter book. I just wasn't really vibing with the writing style and the character story, and it's a memoir of a woman who is a witch, and so it's really hard for me to stay engaged in memoirs if I don't feel like I care about the story or if I connect to the writing a lot, and this one I was just like not getting into, so just decided to put this down. I do not think I will ever pick this one back up. I think I will just donate it. Next we get into part of the reason that my reading plans were a little bit messed up this month and got a little bit delayed, and that is because I could not help but read A Court of Mist and Fury. Last month I finally decided to pick up A Court of Thorns and Roses for the first time. I made a whole reading vlog to my experience of reading that for the first time if you want to check that out, and I really just expected to not like it. I thought it was going to be overhyped. I thought it was not going to be my style, but I ended up getting really obsessed with the characters. The way it is written is just so addictive for some reason, and I could not help but want to keep reading the story, especially with where the first book ends and what I knew kind of was going to happen in the second book. Like I had a feeling it was going to happen, and I was interested in seeing how that storyline was explored. So one night I was just feeling bored, and so I picked up this book and I told myself, like, you'll only read the first like 30 pages or so, and you have all these other reading plans, you'll get through that, you'll pick this up maybe next month. And then I legit read like 200 pages that night and then just flew through this 600-page book like it was nobody's business. I do want to talk about this book a little bit, so I am going to go into a spoilery section to talk about my thoughts on this book. So if you don't want to know any spoilers, skip to where you no longer see the spoiler banner on the screen. I am obsessed with this book. I love it so much. I knew people said the second book was better than the first, but I did not know it was going to be this much better. There's just so much that happens in this book, and after reading it, I have no idea how I ever liked Tamlin at all. I just don't understand how I would ever be able to go back and read A Court of Thorns and Roses without being just so frustrated that she's with Tamlin the whole time, because now that we have Rhysand, I'm just like, that's my man. Like, ooh, he's so much better than Tamlin, and it's all so juicy. I will say I did have a little bit of complaints with this book. I thought some scenes were dragged on for a really long time or slow moving, and I think if I read it again, I would really hate the beginning just because it takes so long of her still being with Tamlin, getting really frustrated with Tamlin before she leaves him and ends up with Rhysand. But that would just be a personal thing because like I want to get to Rhysand. It wouldn't be like a way it's written. I actually like that part stretched out. I really appreciated how Farah's character experiences a lot of trauma after the end of the first book, because I feel like a lot of authors just move on from things like that when they go through these trials, they kill people, they go through these really crazy life-altering experiences, and a lot of times authors can just skim over that kind of stuff and just move on and be like, yeah, that was the exciting plot point. But in this book, you really get to see Farah shutting down because of that and how much that affects her, and it just feels so real because of that. And so I really appreciated that we got to see that with her character, and it actually made her feel more real. Honestly, it was just so enjoyable that I almost gave it a 5-star rating, but I was like, some parts did drag out a little bit, and I was like, come on, let's get moving to the next thing. But I do really enjoy this book. I definitely can see myself rereading this. I've already wanted to reread parts of it, and I haven't even finished the rest of the series yet. I have started the next book in the series, so I'll probably have that one done by next month, and who even knows how quickly I'll get through the rest of this, because it's just so fun to read, and I'm very glad that I gave this series a chance. All of the remaining books that I read this month, I have read for reading vlogs that have not yet come out, and so I don't want to fully spoil those reading vlogs. So I'll just talk about these books briefly and let you know when you can expect the videos. So the first one is I participated in the buzzwordathon challenge for April, which was reading books about space or books with space related words in the title. And so for that video, I ended up reading The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson and Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. I'm actually still reading this one. I only have a little bit left to go. So as soon as I finish this one, I will be getting this reading vlog live, so you can expect to see this one like as soon as tomorrow maybe. I haven't done any of the other buzzwordathon reading challenges this year yet, but I thought this would be a good one to get started with because it was something super different from what I usually read. I really don't read any sci-fi. The sun has just said goodbye, so sorry if the lighting just changed. But I read like no sci-fi, so I thought this would be a really fun way to step out of my comfort zone and try out some different books. Like I said, I don't want to spoil thoughts on these, especially since this video is coming so soon. So I'll just leave it at this to let you know these were the two I read for that, and you can see this video maybe tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then at least the next day. And then the other two books that I read this month, I'm reading for a reading vlog that's not going to go live until May. And I didn't intend to read these books and start this reading vlog, but like I said, my mood reading just kicked in and I was in the mood for thrillers. And I have a new reading vlog coming in May that is going to be reading 3 new thriller release books that have just came out recently. And I am so excited for that. It is going so well. So far, one of those was a 5-star read and the second one was a 4-star read. And I have one more book left to read for that video. So that one will also be coming pretty soon, probably in the first week or so of May. I'll tell you the 3 books that I have planned for that vlog, but I won't tell you which ones I've read yet and which I haven't because I don't want to spoil the ratings. But the 3 books include Who is Maud Dixon by Alexandra Andrews. This is a book about a woman who gets the opportunity to be an assistant to a famous author who writes under the pen name Maud Dixon, and crazy things happen. The second book is Every Value Break by Peter Swanson. This is a story about this couple who gets married, but right before they get married on the bachelorette trip, the woman ends up having a one-night stand and cheating on her soon-to-be husband. And then once they go on their honeymoon, she ends up running into that guy she had an affair with and things get crazy. And then the third book is Finlay Donovan is Killing It by El Cosimano. This is a book about an author who is talking about the plot of her recent book out in a public setting, and someone thinks that she's talking about actually murdering someone, and so they hire her to murder someone. So like I said, that vlog will be coming very soon, so you can keep an eye out for that. So that is it for all of the books that I read in the month of April. My highlights for this month were definitely Dracula by Bram Stoker. This one just really surprised me. I really enjoyed it even though it was so old and written in like an old style. I thought it was so fun. It definitely made me want to read a ton of literary analysis dissecting the book and learn more about its influence on other horror books. So I'd really recommend this one. And then of course, A Court of Mist and Fury, another highlight of mine. It was just so fun, so addictive, really reminds me of why I enjoy reading and getting lost in stories. Is it the most highbrow literature? No, but reading doesn't have to be that way. So I'm very glad that I found this series and that I am enjoying it and it's living up to the hype. So that is it for me. Like I said, you can be on the lookout for the buzzwordathon reading vlog coming very, very soon to a screen near you. And then my thriller reading vlog that is coming in like the first week of May. I have so many fun reading plans for May, but not strict reading plans with like videos planned out that I have to do. I'm just gonna be mood reading a lot in May, and I'm so looking forward to it and all of the awesome books that I have on my TBR. Let me know how your month of reading was in April. What was your favorite book? What are some great reads that you had this month? And also let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned and what your thoughts were on them down below. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!